This is the
Brighter Podcast,
where we illuminate the world of parenting children with autism. I'm CJ, a proud dad to a wonderful 6-year-old with autism. Through my journey, I've discovered the challenges, triumphs, and unique experiences that come with raising a child on the spectrum. Inspired by those experiences, I created this space where parents like you can find understanding, share stories, and learn from each other. Join me as we explore insights, strategies, and support, all while celebrating the brighter spectrum of our children's lives. Now, let's dive in and cast light on this path together. Joining me today is author Elton A. Dean and young author Brandon Dean of Brandon Set Stale, a story about sharing success, as well as another children's book called A Yeti Like Freddy. I'm so excited to sit down with you guys today because this is a really unique and really interesting opportunity to talk to a very young author. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today.
Yeah, thank you for having us. And this is my son, Brandon. He's just turned 8 years old, and he decided that he wanted to be an author as well. So we set off on a voyage to write a story about pirates, and we're happy that it just came out a couple weeks ago.
That's awesome. Hey, Brandon, how are you?
Good.
Awesome. Brandon, I just kind of want to talk to you first real quick because this is really, really cool. You're such a young author. I'm actually really, really impressed by that and a little bit jealous. I went to college for writing and creative writing and things like that in English. So it's really cool to see somebody your age be an author, published already, to have that. As your dad can probably tell you, it's actually a very difficult thing to get any work published, especially your first work. So, kudos to you. And, I just really want to know, what made you want to write a book about pirates?
Want me to help you?
Yeah.
So you really, really love pirates, and you just wanted to tell a story that kind of encompassed all of your experiences, right?
On these very well pirates.
Wow. Okay. You know what? I love pirates too. I actually have 2 flags hanging right behind my computer. And, it's super neat that, you have that interest. What was your favorite part about writing the book?
The crab pinch on my biscuits.
Yeah, there's a part in the book where so Brandon has to find 3 pieces of a map or 3 X's that are on maps, and there's a crab that has one of the treasure maps, and Brandon decided that the crab was going to have the map, and I asked him, how are we going to get the piece of the map from that crab? And he said, well, I'm just going to snatch it away. And I told him, well, we'll put it in there, but it's probably not going to work. I think the crab is not going to like that, and he's probably going to pinch you right on the biscuits. And that was Brandon's favorite part. And it was a really great parenting opportunity as well, because we ended up getting the map by trading some delicious sea snails and oysters, which the crab loves to eat. So we were able to come up with a better and more appropriate solution to problems. So it was really great as an author to move through that storyline, as well as a parent to move through that teachable moment.
That's so cool. It's really, really nice to see a father and son duo get in on a project and work together. Brandon, what was it like working with your dad to write a book together?
Fun.
That's probably the best answer, And, I got one more question for you before I let you run off. You got to tell us, how proud are you of yourself for this accomplishment?
Do you feel proud of yourself?
I do.
Yeah. What makes you feel proud? Maybe doing something that takes a lot of talent?
I think that's something that takes me with a lot of talent.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about some of your fun pirate and treasure hunting experiences that we use for the book? What are some of the things that we've done? The pirate cruise?
Yeah, the pirate cruise.
Yep, so we've done a pirate cruise in Beaufort. And who's on that pirate cruise? Do you remember?
Kegger.
And who else? Spike and Fettuccine.
Spike and Fettuccine.
And they have water cannons on that pirate ship, right? You got to blast the water cannons a couple times, and we
Yep.
took some coins from the from the pirate. And then we've done a lot of treasure hunts around our neighborhood, and Brandon's even found a bottle on the beach, and that is one of our first experiences, right, bud?
Yep.
What happened? What was in the bottle? Do you remember?
A map.
A map.
And a message.
And what did the message say on it?
I can't remember.
I think it said something along the lines of, a pirate's treasure could be in your hand if you find the red X that lies in the sand.
Well, rest in the sand.
Rest in the sand. Yep, that's what it said. I got that word wrong, didn't I?
Yeah.
Luckily for you, you get to remember all those things that Dad can't remember. And then so from there, what happened? Do you remember? We looked at the map and we tried to figure out where on that beach the treasure was. And then what did you find in the sand?
A red X.
And then what was underneath the X?
A treasure chest.
A treasure chest, and we had a key to it. That was pretty cool as well. And it had a lot of coins in it, didn't it? And that was our first big treasure hunting experience that has led to a lot more treasure hunting experiences, because we like to focus on that. And we've pulled a little bit from each experience and tied that into the story that we wrote.
That's awesome. That's so cool. And it's great to hear that you're having these experiences and then you're sharing them with other people, with writing about them in a book. Brandon, thanks so much for sitting down with us today. And on behalf of the audience, I really thank you. And we look forward to seeing what you come out with next.
You want to say thank you?
Thank you.
No problem, buddy. Thanks for hanging out with us.
All right, you want to head downstairs?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm proud of you, bud. Thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
That was really good. All right, man. It's really, really cool to see, like a father-son duo working on a project like of that magnitude together. And before we kind of get into like the normal flow of the show, can you kind of talk about what that experience was like, authoring a book with your son, and like how it made you feel, and everything that goes with that?
Yeah, I mean, so first, if it's all right, I can talk a little bit about what got me started as a writer, and then kind of move into the trajectory of it.
Cool.
And as I retired from the military, and after 17 years of service, I had a back injury in Iraq. So I got a medical retirement, and I spent years just going to school because the GI Bill paid me to go to school. And then I was running out of GI Bill money. I decided that maybe I should go into teaching here. So I talked to one of my professors, and he said one of the first steps I need to do is just to get something published. It can be anything. It can be an article somewhere. It doesn't really matter where you get something published. Just get something published. So I sent out a couple stories to Chicken Soup for the Soul, knowing that I would absolutely never get in there. I mean, they're a massive publication. And then I also sent out a story to Autism Parenting Magazine. And to my surprise, both of them published the stuff that I had sent them. And then because my mom loved Chicken Soup for the Soul so much, I decided to write a story about her to see if that could get published in there, because she had passed recently, and they published a story about my mom, so she gets to live forever in this book that she just loves so much. And with the Autism Parenting Magazine, my piece was a little bit of a rebuttal to an article that compares the stress experienced by an autism parent or an autism mom to the stress that a soldier experiences in combat. And my piece was an oppositional piece to that, because I don't think that there is any comparison. And when I talk to a lot of people and tell them that, they always agree with me, but not for the right reason, because they always say, yeah, you can't compare, a parenting thing to what soldiers experience in combat. And I was like, you're right, because there's no comparison. At no point in the 2 years or close to 2 years that I spent in combat was I nearly as stressed out as I am as an autism dad. For what I did in the military, I was prepared for it, and I was good at it, and I was ready for it. And no matter what situation we encompassed, we were capable of having some sort of escalation where we were able to take some sort of control. And comparing that to what I experienced as an autism dad, something that I was not prepared for, something that I don't have resources and support for, and something that you're trying to fumble your way through. And the fact that this is 24/7, there's no break, there's no respite from it. We don't have an exceptional amount of family support because my family is scattered all over the place. Very tight family, but still geographically, it's difficult to find that support. And that's something that I did not experience in the military. And so as I continued to write, and Chicken Soup for the Soul was publishing some more of my stuff, I just started writing more and writing more and writing more. I just had a story about Brandon published in Chicken Soup for the Soul a couple weeks ago, a story about when we were going light peeping. And he was really proud to just be written about in those stories, and the amount of pride that he had for me. And I think that was really significant because I used to tell my wife that boys always look at their dads as like the best, most capable people in the world, but I feel like mine doesn't look at me like that. And he's always asking me questions and then getting mad at me. And she said that he's asking questions because you know the answers. And I'm like, no, he knows more about tractors than I do, and he corrects me all the time. Nope, that is not a bulldozer, Dad. That is, that's a wheel loader, or that's a backhoe or something.
Oh
And
my God, my son is the exact same way, brother. I called an excavator a bulldozer a couple months back,
I heard that in one of your episodes, and I laughed about it.
Dude, you'd have swore I cussed the kid out. It was so bad. He was so mad at me.
Yeah, he used to get really upset with me, and I was like, man, this kid knows more about his world and everything that he hyper focuses on. He has so much information about it, and I am not capable of remembering that much information. So it's hard for me to think like I'm the center of this kid's world or that he's proud of me, because I just don't live on his level. But there was a time where his aunt was visiting, and I got a shipment of Chicken Soup for the Soul books in, and she came downstairs, and he wrote, Kim, my dad is an author. He wrote many books. And I hadn't written any books at that time. It was just a few stories that I'd been published in. But that's where I realized that, oh my gosh, my son is proud of me, and my son is looking up to me as something that is amazing to him. And so I started writing a book called Positively Autistic, The Bright Side of the Spectrum, and taking a lot of the short stories and focusing on the positive stuff, because there's so much negative out there in the stories in the books that are published. And I lost a little bit of speed with that when I started teaching. And it's something that I'm still going to kind of continue working on maybe over the next couple of years or so. And I was really trying to think of what is it that I write, and what is it that actually adds value to people and helps people. And while we were going through that, we were getting a lot of questions about, why does Brandon do this, or why does he do that? And a lot of parents saying that we just don't really know how to explain it. And when we explained autism to Brandon, we thought it was just going to be a one and done conversation, something that you kind of stumble through. There weren't really any books that talked about autism from a behavioral perspective for kids. And so there just wasn't a lot of stuff that said what I wanted it to say. And so as I was revisited with that scenario of people asking us to explain it, and explain it in different ways, and explain it in more meaningful ways, I said that I think that I need to write a book that helps people understand. And I decided to self-publish because I wanted control over the content and control over the images, and because I wanted to publish sooner, because there was an immediate need to create that understanding and acceptance and awareness. And then when I self-published, I started an LLC. So my son came up to me and said, well, I want to be an author too. And I was like, pal, you're 7. You can't be an author at 7. And then I started thinking, well, you know what? Why can't he be an author? I said, if I can figure out a way to harness his imagination and his ability to pull from all the experiences that he has, and from all his passion for pirates, and So we ended up starting a summer project, which was a book about him going to space. And sadly, I did not know enough about space travel as he did. And so when I told him that I just don't have the knowledge to take what you know and put that into a story, he was a little bit sad. And then he said, well, can we write a book about pirates? Because that's kind of what I wanted to write anyways. And so I said, well, what do you want to call it? And he said, I want to call it Brandon Set Sail. And I didn't know what the process of writing a book with at that point he was 7. I didn't know what the process was going to be like with the 7-year-old, and so I was very anxious about it. And as we started that story, I asked him, so how are we going to start it, and what do you want the story to be? And he just started, like I said, just pulling from everything, and he was creating something new out of everything that he has experienced. And I thought that it was an amazing way for him, his imagination to really thrive, and a way for him to harness how focused he was on pirates and treasure hunting. And it only took us about 2 weeks to write the story. And then from there, I sat down reading him the story page by page, and I would ask him, what do you want the drawings on this page to look like? And I would say probably 95% of what he said that he wanted the drawings to look like is exactly what I had envisioned, or at least were very close to what I had envisioned. And I realized at that point that this kid is very vivid on what he wants to write. And as the illustrator was sending us stuff back, he was rejecting it right and left. And people thought that I was the one that was holding up the project. And, so they kept on asking me, and they're like, do you have your stuff back? Do you have your stuff back? And I was like, nope, because Brandon says that the illustrator doesn't know what a yellow ringed octopus looks like. And, that's not the color that an old diver suit is supposed to look like. It has to be exact. And so we went through kind of a long illustration process, and he had control over it. And I just let him decide whether or not he liked the stuff. And we got to a point where he was really happy with what we had, both in words and in illustrations. And one of his characters is his stuffed animal parrot, and the parrot goes with us a lot of places. And the parrot's role is to tell jokes throughout the book. He tells one joke actually in the book, and then our family sat down and thought of as many pirate jokes as we could, and we put all of those in the back of the book as a kind of like an appendix. And we had an illustration of the pirate ship, and we had an illustration of the journey of the map. And one of the other characters is also our next door neighbor, who he's really great friends with, and someone that we're very happy to live next door to. So it's really just something that he pieced together from all of his experiences that were positive, and he put it into something that people are really proud of. I'm proud of it as an author, not just as a dad, but to be proud of it as an author, to say that my son told a story that is absolutely amazing, and I feel like we unlocked something that is exceptional.
That's amazing. I mean, first of all, thank you for your service. I didn't know that in our pre-conversation. I would have used that in the introduction.
Oh, no worries.
That's great that you were able to take, your military experience, transfer it into schooling, and then start publishing works, and then kind of come around and start including your son in that. And, I feel like a lot of parents really would have balked at the idea of like, your son being an author or a kid working on a project like that. I mean, my son is obsessed with like toy review videos, and once in a while we'll like film one on the phone. I don't like putting him on the internet. But cause we kind of do that together, and it's really cool that you're able to collaborate with him on such an extensive project. And I think like the part I'm most impressed about is like he knew what he wanted to title his work, because anytime I've ever worked on anything, I swear to God, the title comes to you 35 pages in, you're like, that's what I'm calling it. And that's incredible that like he was just like, this is what I want to call it, and then just run with it like that. And like, how much did you have to guide him through that process? Being an experienced author, obviously there's steps that you take, How much did you have to guide him through that, or did he just kind of know from watching you?
He just kind of knew where he wanted the story to go. That there's a children's YouTube content maker called Handyman Hal. I don't know if you're familiar with him at all.
Oh yes, Handyman
Um,
Hal, Blippy, and then
oh yeah,
who's the inspector? Oh, it's another guy, Inspector something. It's like a whole like bunch of them.
yeah. So I don't know who the inspector is, but Handyman Hal is a fan favorite of ours, and we were going down to Myrtle Beach where he has all of his videos. And Brandon was like, "Well, we're going to Myrtle Beach, so Handyman Hal's going to want to see us." And I'm like, "Well, bud, Handyman Hal doesn't know who we are." And he was arguing with me about that he wanted to see us. And so I did my due diligence of finding this guy's email address and sending him an email and explaining that, I know you're big. I know you do a lot of meet and greets, but my son is on the spectrum, and we're not really able to do that. And he was like, "Yeah, man, just let me know when, and if I'm around, we'll do this thing." So we ended up planning our family vacation around his time frame, and we hung out with him at an ice cream shop where they filmed one of the videos for about an hour. Just Brandon and Hal, just a really amazing guy. The guy's a youth group pastor, and he just just is really focused on helping kids and making a positive impact on us. And so it was really cool that he would welcome us like that.
Yeah,
And as we were
really.
getting ready to go, he did a video of a pirate cruise in Myrtle Beach. So that was what really turned us on to pirates. And then we started doing all of our research. We live in an area where Blackbeard used to sail through all the time. There's a whole maritime museum with artifacts from his ship that we visit. There's a pirate cruise near us, and we've done all of those things. And so I didn't really have to guide him a whole lot at all, because he just just pulled all these different pieces. And so we talked about what was going to happen, about that we needed to find 3 pieces of the map. And then we kind of navigated through, where are those pieces of the map, and how are you going to get those pieces of the map? And so the way that he was going to get the pieces of the map was where I really had to intervene, because he was going to snatch it away from the octopus, and we were using the water cannons to blast it away. I'm sorry, we used he wanted to snatch it away from the crab, rather, and we were using the water cannons to blast it away from the octopus. And then when he actually gets to the treasure, there's a tired, defeated treasure hunter that's telling him, "Don't bother, there's no treasure here." And those were where I really intervened and talked to him about how do we find appropriate solutions to these problems. And I let him come up with those solutions, that maybe the octopus needed help, and maybe the crab we need to trade for something that the crab might want to eat. And then when I asked him, if you're digging for treasure in this hole on this island that everybody else has been digging on, and everybody has failed, right? Nobody has succeeded. How are you going to succeed in finding this treasure if no one else can? And he said, "Dad, if I want to succeed, I have to dig deeper than everybody else." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, that is amazing and perfect." And I kept it just word for word, the way that he did it. So a lot of my nudging was more towards just finding those solutions.
That's so cool. I personally, I love pirates too. So it's really neat that there's a children's book available that is relatable like that. I'm definitely going to have to pick this up for my son. I'm trying to get him into pirates, and he's not really having it quite yet. But like I was telling Brandon, I have pirate flags. I have a dead man's chest and a Jolly Roger hanging. I have pirates jewelry and books and statues, and I love pirates. So, I understand kind of how he feels about that. And I do treasure hunting too. I have a metal detector, and then I do magnet fishing in the water. So,
oh, we love magnet fishing.
Oh man, this kid could be my long lost brother.
Yeah, we live on a creek. Actually, right after we'd had a hurricane, I think it was Hurricane Debbie that came through our area. And we went down to our community dock, and we live on this giant creek that goes into the intercoastal waterway. And there was something metal poking out from the water right after the storm. And I said, it almost looks like the bottom of a folding chair.
Mhm.
And it took us 2 days, trying to get the magnet far enough in to get that. And the magnet just wasn't quite getting there. And we have the little grappling hook that wasn't quite heavy enough to get there. So we ended up tying a wrench to the end of the rope in order to add some weight. And after probably 400 or 500 casts, we got right into the cup holder and pulled this chair in, and that lives in our garage right now. And Brandon said that he's going to use it for all of his author visits.
I don't blame him. That was a lot of work to get to my chair.
I was
That's
like,
awesome.
"Well, maybe I could just buy you a chair." And he's like, "Nope, this is the biggest catch, Dad." But yeah, he loves magnet fishing. Don't tell him, but usually I come with a pocket full of metal things and try to throw them in when he's not looking. But this was a real catch.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. And for 8 years old, he's very well spoken. Coming up, when you first started realizing that maybe he was on the spectrum and setting up evaluations, was he always like very verbal, or is that something you had to work on?
No, he was diagnosed as nonverbal, and we were told that he's probably not going to speak, that he probably won't have words, and that we need to kind of start kind of getting on board with that. And we started learning sign language and things, or at least trying to learn sign language. And I can't remember exactly when he started speaking, but it was rather late. It was somewhere around 3 years old, I believe. And the first thing that he said that we actually could understand was the full alphabet from A to Z in perfect clarity. So like all the information was there, and he just, when he was ready to vocalize, he started saying it. And his language progressed, just rapidly. And he was addicted to fruit for a long time. Videos where you label your fruit, and there's one that has like 400 different types of fruit, and they just rattle them off one after another. And then he had that whole thing memorized, and then all of a sudden he started getting them wrong. And I was like, Bud, I don't understand why. Oh, I get it. You're not telling us what this fruit is. You're telling us what the next fruit is. And then I started hearing some sort of, things that didn't make sense to me. I thought it was just kind of mumbling or rambling or something. And then as I started paying more attention to what he was watching on YouTube with his fruit videos, he was watching them in Chinese Mandarin, Spanish, Portuguese, French. He was naming off fruits and colors and all sorts of stuff in like 7 different languages. So once he actually developed the ability to get those words out, it exploded.
That's super fortunate. My son right now is only he's like partially verbal, and with a lot of speech therapy, he's kind of able to let me know like needs, right? And like when he wants me to help him.
Yeah.
But I'm really hoping to kind of get him like where Brandon is, where he can actually talk to you and do stuff with you. I think a lot of us parents are right there where we're just like, man, I just want you to talk to me, dude.
Yeah. It took a long time for us to go from being verbal to being communicative. A lot of the stuff that he was saying didn't actually provide enough context for us to like actually communicate with them. And we still kind of struggle with that sometimes at school. As much as he can remember, once he gets out of school, he just, the environment or the context doesn't allow him to really, focus on qualitative things that we want to know as parents. And so there are some troubles with navigating through information and communication from that perspective. But we are just working on getting there. And that's all I can say to any parent is, I think one of my favorite words is for autism is takiwatanga, which comes from the Maori word of in his own time and space. And I actually use that in the book A Yeti Like Freddy. that he'll get there in his own time and space. And that's the thing that parents really need to understand is that your child will progress when they're ready to progress. And if they don't, you have to remember that everybody has their limits somewhere, right? And we all have our strengths and our limitations, and we just need to figure out a way to fill in that gap in order for us to be successful.
So, how long did it take? I know this is a chance for you to humble brag a little bit here. How long was the time frame between not talking to authoring a book?
Um, 4 years, something like that.
Man,
Yeah,
that's incredible.
yeah, because he started talking when he was 3. Started becoming a little bit more communicative at 5, and then we authored the book while he was 7.
Mm, wow, that's a that's a dream. That's a dream for a lot of us, man. Yeah, like no, it's cool to have these stories too because like there's a lot of us out here who are like down and out, and you've seen it where like it's like oh, it's very frustrating, and all these like hopes and stuff, and like stories like that really like okay, it is possible. Like it really brings hope to a lot of people that like hey, my kid might get there, and I might be able to talk to him. So it's really nice to hear stuff like that.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, for me, it's all about you have to find a way to win. My wife and I talk about it all the time about how our family is deprived of a lot of experiences that the typical family is, and like we go on Facebook, and there's a lot of jealousy, and
mhm.
there's a lot of judgment for autism parents who feel that jealousy of like, oh, I've heard everything from like, well, you know what you're signing up for. You know that this is still your responsibility, and it's like, let me tell you, I'm here, but I'm allowed to feel feelings, and for me, what I just need to focus on is finding a way to win. And in the Army, I became a resilience trainer as a way for me to kind of help myself as well. But there was a practice called Hunt the Good Stuff, and that was really focused on thinking about 3 positive things that happened every day and then reflecting upon why they're positive and what it actually means to you. And it could be something as massive, and I wrote this in the first article for Autism Parenting magazine. It could be something as massive as when my son held my hand for the first time because he knew that he wasn't walking down the street without it. And that was my first time like actually getting to hold my son's hand, and it was so amazing of a feeling. The first time that I've really been able to connect with my son to that point, and I think he was like 3 or 4 at the time. Or it could be something as small as Dunkin' Donuts didn't have as big of a line today, so I was able to stop and get a coffee because the lines are usually out the door, and I just needed a small pick me up. And so being able to look at things from that lens and be able to search for things that are positive, those can help you kind of get through the day and focus on things, because our negative thoughts can really create a downward spiral. And then once you get better and better and better at that, then you start really focusing on what can I do to spin something around and find a way to win. And so that's really the philosophy that I take, is just as hard as it is, just how can I turn this around? And sometimes I can't, and sometimes I can. And when I can, it's a win.
Dude, how about it? And a little tip there, something that another autism parent taught me, the Dunkin' app and the Wawa app. Order
Yeah.
ahead, brother. Order ahead. Um, but you know, I think it's really cool. Um, we kind of brought up talking about the first time he holds your hand because it kind of reminds us like a lot of us dads, like we have tissues in our pockets, and it's not because we have runny noses, because sometimes we just cry because you never know when one of those moments is going to happen and it just catches you. And I think that's one of the things that we really learn as autism parents is like how to really appreciate some of the like the smallest things out there where I don't know, like a lot of neurotypical parents at the ages of 7 and 8, maybe they're hearing a piano recital or something, and my kid just used the potty standing up for the first time a couple of days ago, and I was over the moon. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a huge milestone.
Oh, dude. It's such a battle. But it's like stuff like that where you're just like, man. And then just to kind of like hawk back to something else you had said, about like, again, appreciating the small things, and like how you also said, you know, about the people who are jealous, and like who look at your jealousy as like, well, you know what you were getting into. It's like, first of all, no, I didn't. I didn't get to pick that. But no, you're right. And that's something like as autism parents, we really do learn is like, you know, your feelings are your feelings. You can't control the way you feel. The only thing you can control is how you react to those feelings.
Exactly.
Yeah. And, I really take like a stoic, almost stoic approach, where they had this like a philosophy of you should always allow your feelings and feel your feelings, but never allow them to command you. Right. So it's always good to feel them and acknowledge them and understand where they come from. Um, and then really kind of like come back and analyze that later and be like, all right, well, I understood where that comes from, and I'm allowed to feel that way. And then I'm going to get past it, and then I'm going to go back to appreciating some of the stuff that a lot of parents take for granted with their neurotypical kids. So it's really cool that you kind of like brought something like that up.
Yeah, there's a workshop that I did at my school. I was still a student, from a behavioral therapist that works with adults, neurotypical adults too. And she said something that I didn't really give a second thought to until later on, and definitely pun intended there. Her statement was control your second thought. That you can't control your first thought. You can't control that knee jerk reaction. But what you can do is let that first thought progress, and then you can control your second thought in order to start taking actions that are effective. And for a long time, I really felt guilty about my first thoughts. I felt ashamed, and now I realize that they are just a means to cope, and then I can be more responsible with my actions. But I can't do that if I don't let my emotions progress naturally.
Right. Right. You just suppress them, and then eventually they just explode on their own, and you completely lose control, and you're a
Yeah,
mess for
like
a
a
little
pressure
while.
cooker.
Oh, yeah, no, it's definitely better to like just like let it out. Like I tell you what, sometimes I get so frustrated with my little guy that I have to go find a room and just sit down and cry it out for a little bit. You
Yeah.
know, and it's weird, like a lot of times like when I tell people that, they're like, you're a guy, right? And I'm like, bro, like you got to let that out. Like there's no way like that you can just hold that in the whole time. And let me tell you, like especially with dealing with these kids on the spectrum, letting that out does so much, like just good for you as a parent. It helps you with your decision making. You come back and you're like, all right, I worked through those emotions, and now I can kind of deal with them. Because a lot of times, a lot of their stuff, I especially for my little guy, like just like the only avenues of communication that they have sometimes, it can be very frustrating as a parent and upsetting, and inspire a lot of like negative emotions. And like if you don't work through those, you could respond in a way that just makes them worse for the child, because they're already frustrated because they can't tell you all the time exactly how they're feeling you
Yeah,
know
I found, really a lot of this roller coaster ride is it gets better and then it goes downhill. And I find that those ups and downs are very closely related to um, his ability to communicate, what he's able to communicate at that time.
hmm
So his language will expand and things get so much better, and then it takes a little while for his language to catch up with him again, and that's where those dips are. So the ability to communicate and the you know um, the good times are just really associated with how much can we communicate with each other and how much can we understand each other.
Right. Right. And then, oh, what, at least once you understand each other enough on a level, then you have like these stretches where like everything's great, and I kind of feel like there's a little bit more reward when it comes to teaching these kids new things, right? Like I'd said on a previous episode, like I always wanted to take my son fishing, and I didn't get to do that up until he was 6 years old. I finally got to take him, and he caught one. He was like physically and mentally mature enough to do that activity. And I and like you said before, like I would see my friends with their like toddlers and they're out there fishing. Oh, was I jealous? I was like, man, that's all I want. Like I just want to take little man fishing. And it's crazy sometimes how you look at those things and those experiences, and yeah, I don't know. I kind of forget where I was going with that. I got lost in the fishing memories, but like, you know what I mean, though.
Oh yeah, absolutely. For me, it's I thought that what I was going to be doing as a dad is very different from what I am doing. Not only as a dad, but like I never at any point in my life wanted to be an author. It's just something that happened, and it's something that I embraced. And when my son wanted to embrace it as well, man, I just picked that up and ran with it immediately. I mean, my wife and I actually published, we didn't publish it yet, I'm sorry. We wrote another book called Brandon Found a Bigfoot. Okay. And that book is, the big, because he's into Bigfoot as well. So the Bigfoot has some autistic mannerisms, but we never actually identify the Bigfoot as autistic, as a way to be more generalized in building acceptance and awareness of others. And then, we were looking for traditional publishers, and then I got bored as we were looking for it. So I wrote A Yeti Like Freddy Talking to Kids About Autism, because I saw that opportunity. And then we were planning on publishing Brandon Found a Bigfoot a couple weeks ago. But as soon as Brandon said that he wanted to write a book with me, my wife was like, you know what, let's do his first. So she did the mom thing of taking a back seat again, because it's always been her dream to be a published author. And one of the things I want to do is help her accomplish that dream. And we're going to do that. Hopefully we'll earn enough revenues to be able to publish the next book as well. But, both, mom and I, as soon as Brandon said that he wanted to do this, we were like, let's do it. Let's go with it right now. And let's put him in the spotlight, and let's help him accomplish something that is more amazing than he's going to ever be able to realize.
Man, absolutely. And, talk to us a little bit, because we've talked about his accomplishments and stuff, but, talk to us about your pride as a father when that actually finally like happened for him.
I don't even know. It feels surreal. We did an interview with Fox News yesterday, and that came out last night, and they're posting it to their Facebook page and stuff this morning, and that just feels surreal. And we practiced on the car ride up there, and he just he warmed up during the interview, and he read an entire page of the pirate jokes to her, and one of them made the news clip as well. And to be able to look at my son, who's diagnosed as ADHD, autism, sensory processing disorder, nonverbal, and to see where he's come in his capability to do that is something that I have to really sit back and think about how amazing it really is, and not get lost in what he can't do. And like you said, we start celebrating the wins that we have are earned, and it's not just the parents that are earning it. It's Brandon earning it, and your boy is earning it. and every milestone that they hit is significant and it's massive. And as a father, I can't be more proud of him for who he is.
Man, how about it? You know, and wow. I mean, if my son for 1 second showed that level of interest in something I was doing, I would drop everything. But like, yes, we're doing that. We're doing that all the way right now. Like, man,
Yeah.
that's so cool.
Yeah, his
Uh,
principal pulled him aside this morning. He has a brand new principal. We've never actually, aside from just meeting him in the hallway really quickly one time, and we've never really actually sat with this principal yet. And his principal went and found him today. It was like, I saw you on the news today. So just as a dad, I was like, man, that is so awesome that like the leader, the big leader of your school is like seeking you out because you're like a local celebrity. And to just have some small part, in being able to help him do that it's humbling. And one of my boss's boss actually told me, she says, you see all these parents with their, my kid is an honor student at such a school, and she said, you're going to be able to be like, you know what, my kid reads the books that your honor student reads, or my kid writes the books that your honor student reads.
that's the truth, man. That. Oh man. So I had seen oh, before I get to that question, man, I'm so scatterbrained. Um are you guys maybe planning on using some of that, like that local fame that he's kind of generated to maybe start bringing more awareness to like autism, like maybe like doing like fairs or anything like that that crop up in the area?
Yeah, I've been a lot of the money that I should have spent in marketing a Yeti like Freddie talking to kids about autism. I Because I'm self-published, I don't have a whole lot of capital to do this yet. So a lot of the money that I should have spent on marketing went to illustrating his book because like we said, it was picking up what he had an interest in and running with it because
Yeah.
it was so much more important to me to accomplish this with Brandon and have him be a co-author than it was to scale my previous book. So now that we're getting a little bit of coverage, I've been invited to do a local author showcase. Um, they were looking for local authors. They saw a news article about us, and then they reached out to me. We're also doing a craft fair at his school. I'm going to approach the county as well and see if we can do author visits. And I know that there's a lot of authors that get paid for author visits. But what I would really like to do is, if someone buys a book on Amazon, um, I essentially pay $5 for shipping. $5 goes to Amazon for their commission, and then $5 goes to me. So instead of getting paid from the school, instead of taking resources away from the school, I would really love to do visits and then sell the books to the schools or sell the books directly to parents, however they want to do it. But that extra $5 that would have gone to Amazon goes to their PTO, and then so maybe we can spread awareness. We can bring in more resources and more capital for the schools. So that's something that I would really like to do. Barnes and Noble is also looking to do a signing with us, and I want to pitch that out to the exceptional families programs that are in the area. And I told them what I really want to do is to do a story time so that if there are children on the spectrum, if there's autism families, they can come and hear the book from me for free. They don't have to buy anything, but just come and come out and everybody can be okay with how their kids act, because as an author, like I want them there regardless of what their behaviors or their mannerisms are. Like, don't be ashamed to come out. So I am hoping to be able to do some things in even a small capacity to bring this community together and to create more cohesion between us and the neurotypicals and to bring more acceptance and more awareness. Because that's what this is all about, is just like I always tell people, my goal as a dad is to make my son's world a better place to live in. And my goal as an author is to expand that world out to as many people as possible.
Man, that's so cool. And it's really nice that you're taking this opportunity to work on that whole like spreading awareness and like getting involved in these different things. Because I do feel like especially like when you're in the general public, sometimes, well, not even sometimes, pretty much all the time, their autism antics are often viewed as like negative or misbehavior or something like that. So it's really
Bad
nice,
parenting.
like, sorry.
And bad parenting.
Oh, yeah, don't even get me started on that, but, like but just, like, using this, platform that you guys have generated and really, like, showing people, like, what these kids are capable of is so awesome, and speaking of what they're capable of, because I know we're coming up on time here, but this is, like, a really unique opportunity. I really wanna take the opportunity here to ask as many questions as I can. You had posted in the Autism Dads group that we're a mutual part of, a picture of Brandon reading to his whole class. And that
Yes.
kind of stuck out to me because that sort of public interaction, especially that sort of like in the spotlight entertainment thing, isn't really something a lot of autistic kids take to. So, like, what is that like for Brandon and seeing him do that with these kids? Um, because I feel like when he's doing this with these other autistic children, it's sort of like he's a role model for them. So,
Those are
like,
actually he's actually in a mainstream classroom, and he does a lot of pullouts. But that was him reading the book to his neurotypical peers, and they were looking at it as like, kind of, a few people have been more on the lines of like, it was nice to include your son's name on the cover, and I take
mhm,
every opportunity to let them know that I didn't just put his name on the cover. Like, this is his story. So a lot of the kids were asking me about, like, how do you write these stories, and I was like, I didn't write this story. Brandon wrote this story, and they were all like, wow. And so he was smiling and he was proud. I did most of the reading. He read the first few pages and he read most of the pirate jokes.
mhm.
But for a lot of it, he was holding up his. We both had a copy of the book, and he was holding up his copy of the book so that they could see the illustrations. And I had a hard time not crying there because it was such a huge victory for us. And he was just beaming. And he was happy. He was smiling. He felt proud of himself. His peers were looking at him like he was amazing. So to be able to even stand out amongst your neurotypical peers as something amazing feels like an accomplishment for me as a dad, but just something that I was really happy with. For him as a student and for him as an author. And when I went to his teacher and said that, hey, we have a book that we're publishing, and he wants his first author visit to be in his classroom, she didn't hesitate, and I was really happy that she let us do that in the most comfortable environment for him.
Yeah, even tailoring it to being a comfortable vibe, just having him being comfortable at all in that sort of spotlight is incredible. I mean, this is not just a dub for you guys and like him as an author, but I feel like it's a big win for like the autism community as a whole to have that sort of example out there. You know, just showing me like, hey, like this is possible. Like, work with your kids, pay attention to them, and do the things that they're interested in because this is the stuff they're capable of doing. And I mean, 8 years old, 7 years old, a published author is incredible for anybody, and it's just amazing to have your son as a part of this community and being able to put a little bit of a spotlight on him and have him be comfortable with that is awesome. And I don't mean to gas you up or anything, but like that, I kind of feel like he is like a sort of like role model for these kids.
Yeah, that's what I'm really hoping for. And I see, because I belong to several children's book author illustrator groups on Facebook as well, and I'm seeing a lot more parents self-publishing their stories to help create autism awareness. So I've been kind of banding together with some of those people as well, and letting them know, like, if you can get to a point where you can include your child in that journey, we need more people. We need, the community as a whole to see that, and to embrace that, and the more that we can include them, the better. And for me, it was like, how do I include my son in this journey? And he came and asked me, instead of the other way around. Like, I'm not dragging him down this journey. This is something that he asked for. So, and I had a big talk with him about what it's going to mean to be an author. Some of the attention may die down after a while, but for a while you're going to be in the spotlight, and to be on Fox News, and be in our local newspaper, and to be featured in a podcast, and have other parents look at us and say, you know, can you give us advice, or have neurotypical families look at us and say, I can't believe that you had a child do something like this. It just all feels very, very surreal, but something that I'm just happy that we can be a little beacon of hope for other people.
Yeah, you sure are. You know, it's just crazy. Like usually on these episodes, I really try to focus more on the parents, right? And I'm sure you've heard me say it's like a lot of us, like the parents, we don't really get asked a whole lot about what it's like to be the parents. It's always about the kids, but like in this case, it was almost like you know, about both of you at the same time, which is a really unique opportunity to sort of have that conversation, because like we can really just hear like all that pride and just you know the joy you're feeling about your experience, of being his dad, and that's something we all strive to feel. And it's great that we were able to talk to you about that today. And at this point, I'd really like to, Elton, to give you a chance to. I mean, we've brought up the titles and stuff, but like really, like, tell us about your books. Tell us where we can find them, because I guarantee everybody listening to this episode now is like, I got to get this book.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first book I wrote is called A Yeti Like Freddy, talking to kids about autism. I just released a second edition of it today, so that I own the book number to it, and I can do more with it. So primarily, it's on Amazon, but I also publish it with Ingram Spark as well. So other book retailers, big box retailers, can order it. I saw it on the Barnes and Noble site, which was really cool this morning. And the book that I wrote with Brandon is called Brandon Sets Sail: A Story About Sharing Success. And that is also a book number that I own this time around, because I learned from my mistake the first time. And that is also available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, Ingram Spark, and other big book retailers as well.
Awesome. And then if there's anybody out there listening who maybe would like to feature you or Brandon on a production, sort of like you're doing now, is there a way anyone can get in contact with you to ask those sort of questions?
Yeah, I should be more active on social media than I am, but I do have a social media page on Facebook, which is just Elton A. Dean Author. And you can also just email me at elton.a.dean@gmail.com. That's probably the quickest and easiest way to get a hold of me, and we would be happy to tell our story to anyone who will listen.
Hey, and we're glad that you have that story to tell. This is probably one of the most optimistic episodes, and I pride myself on having optimistic episodes, right? Even though we do touch on a lot of like, depressing aspects, and then we talk about, getting past that and whatnot. But this has got to be easily the most optimistic episode we've recorded to date. And I'm really glad to be able to do that, and proud. I feel like I got in before the mass media really took him over.
I hope the mass media does take over at some point. He wants
Yeah,
to buy a golf cart if we sell enough books.
yeah, he's gonna be like something big by the time he's 20, and I'm gonna be like, I talked to that kid when he was 8, and no one's gonna believe that.
Well, now you have evidence of it.
Right. Hey, Elton, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. This was great. I really had a good time enjoying talking to you and interviewing Brandon. And, in the future, when you guys publish some more stuff, maybe you got to come back and give me the exclusive, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out with me.
Yeah, thank you for letting us tell our story.
Thank you for tuning in to the Brighter Spectrum podcast. If you have any comments, questions, or stories to share, or if you'd like to be a guest on the show, feel free to reach out to me at brighterspectrumpodcast@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, take care and keep shining a light on the journey of parenting.
Thank you for listening.